Hello friends, merhabalar. I finished reading this book, the Oxford Handbook of Skepticism, and overall I would say it is a good book. If you're interested in skepticism, it is worth reading, especially if you want to take it serious. However, there are some issues that I would like to talk about with the book before I get too much into complimenting it. If you're just getting started with skepticism, go ahead and pick this up. And this is probably the only book you're ever going to need if you just want to understand the basics. However, there are sections in here where it talks about people's responses to skepticism. And in the responses to skepticism, there is a lot of bad ideas. For example, one person says that, one of the arguments in here is that if you can negate this kind of skepticism about the external world, then we can actually have knowledge. As long as we can prove the external world is real, or negate the arguments against the external world, then we can have knowledge. But that's not the skepticism that matters. Skepticism about the external world doesn't actually matter for the really good skeptical arguments. It's actually skepticism about inference that matters, about being able to justify things, right? To be able to make assertions that are rational. That's the skepticism that matters. And in this book, in the response section, which is actually a couple hundred pages of it, it's a 600-page book, and probably 300 pages are dedicated to that. Nobody's been able to deal with that issue. And as far as I can tell, most philosophers that's studied this subject, it's called the Munchausen's trilemma, were not able to come up with a solution. And when you actually study the problem, it doesn't seem like there is a solution. In my book, Knowing Nothing, I talk about this, where if you give a reason for something, believing something, you have to, if someone asks you how do you know that to be true, you're going to provide either more reasons, which isn't really answering the question, or you're going to appeal to your senses because you saw it. How do I know the apple is red? Because I saw that the apple is red. But then the next question is, why do your sensory perceptions of things justify anything? And since you can't regress any further than that, you can't use more perceptions to justify perceptions, you don't have a way of justifying anything. And that issue isn't actually answered in this book, in the response section. So there's a lot of silly responses, if you actually understand the Munchausen's trilemma, in this book that you'll catch if you get it. In fact, to be honest, you could skip the entire response section if you wanted to, because they all argue against the Cartesian skepticism, where it's you're a brain in a vat. But that's not the kind that matters. Anyways, there's also some very interesting explanations of sextist apeiresis, I think that's his name, in here about how he would say skepticism is great. It's like a ladder. This is a really good quote, actually. It's like a ladder. Once you climb the ladder, you no longer need it. I think that's really true. Once you understand skepticism, you don't actually need skepticism, because you understand that everybody has equally arbitrary beliefs, and so you don't have to worry about having people justify things or stuff like that. You don't have to worry about any of that doubting stuff, right? That's a really good quote in here. There are some nuggets in this book. I would say overall it's probably a 7 out of 10. And if you're starting with the subject, get this book. Otherwise, stay away from it. It's pretty thick, it's pretty academic. Some of the language in here is very difficult. But yeah, so I think that's the 11 out of 1,000 books that I'm going to read. The next books I'm reading are very big, and they're going to take a long time. I actually want to make a video about this. Some of you are interested about my math learning, and I'm right now going through a 600-page math book. I'm going to do math from zero to complete, basically, all the way to graduate level math. I'm going to make a video about this. It's kind of like the Road to 1,000 Books thing. I will make a video about that. But I probably won't have another Road to 1,000 Books video for a long time, because all the books I'm reading are very big. This is a 1,000-page case book. So I'm almost done this book, actually. This is a 600-page book with text that's very small, and this is also a 600-page book with very small text. So it will be a while before I finish any more books, especially on top of the 600-page math book. And I'm busy with Turkish, writing my other book, and other things like that. So that's, I think, 11 out of 1,000. I don't remember. You'll see in the title. But with that being said, gule gule.